First call for rules. Where? Shaniza. I want to call this August 31st Rules Committee meeting to order. Melvina, if you would you give the invocation, please?
Erodakalande hevchile heliga handeskiatin ho. Nimna dejadostan heldis do hesta handogilanstan her osvatli lo henole di danto de hik tan hiv de hen ho histes kohig. Og gidorgalande heinole aniso anedos with the hatin hido hesto han. Father, we just thank you for this day. We just thank you for all your blessings. Lord, we just ask you to be with each and every one, Lord, that you would just guide us and give us wisdom, knowledge for the betterment of Turkey Nation. Lord, I just ask for prayer for one of our members, Lord, that you would just give them the healing that they need. Lord, we just thank you for everything and be with us in your name. Amen.
Thank you, Melvina. Shelley, if you would you do roll call, please?
Mike Shambaugh.
Here.
Sasha Black Fox Qualls.
Here.
Danny Callison.
Here.
Julia Coates. Here. Joe Deere.
Aye.
Mike Dobbins. Kevin Easley.
Here.
Lisa Hall.
Here.
Johnny Kidwell.
Here.
Daryl Legg.
Here.
Dora Petskowski.
Here.
Cody Poindexter. Joshua Sam.
Here.
Melvina Shotpouch. E.O. Smith.
Here.
Candace Teehee.
Aye.
Victoria Vasquez. We have a quorum.
Okay, if you've had a chance to look over the minutes, could I have a motion, please?
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the minutes. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. All right, first off in reports from the Marsh Service, we have Marshal Shannon Buell.
Good afternoon. Besides the monthly report that you have in front of you, I'd like to bring up a couple of things. One, the Oklahoma State Bureau of Investigations has a new Indian Country liaison. I look forward to be working with him. It is important that we, since post-McGirt, really look at other agencies on any cases they might have had pre-McGirt on missing and murdered indigenous people or indigenous people homicides. So that's what we've been trying to do, is try to find out what this thing looks like. And where we're standing now is approximately 41 missing and 23 homicides. Now that goes as far back as we can find it. So we're looking at as far back as, and this is 70s, 1970s on up until today. So this isn't this month that's going on, but we're trying to get historical data on the missing and murdered situation in eastern Oklahoma as far as Indians. So we'll continue that, and I'll continue to update on that as well throughout the process. I just want to keep you with that. Without that, any questions or concerns?
Candace.
Thank you for joining us this afternoon, Marshal Buell. I have had some constituents express some concerns over some audio that is circulating out in the community. And, without saying too much about the audio itself, I wanted to give you a chance to address that audio and make any statements that you felt were relevant.
I'd be more than happy to address the audio. The audio was taken out of our office. I just tipped out of a phone call with a Cherokee member from Adair County that was very belligerent, and it was an argument back and forth. His philosophy was that the Cherokee Nation only is here for people of half-blood quantum or higher, and I argued that to say I think every tribal member, irrelevant on blood quantum, has rights, has privileges, and they should be held to the same level as anybody. I don't believe there should be a hierarchy because of a degree of Indian blood. I don't personally see that. So we had quite a few pretty bad words. I was mad, he was mad, At some juncture during the phone call, he decided to tell me that Governor Stitt should just go ahead and take the tribe over because the tribe's ran by non-Indians, and that he's looking for his friends to do a revolt of the tribe. And I encouraged him not to do that very emphatically. And so I was upset. I came into my office where other marshals were, and I'm explaining this to the marshals, the conversation we just had. That audio, somebody in another room audioed it and then edited it to make it sound like I had something against full-bloods. I do not, never have. I don't think there's anyone in this room or in any other room that I've ever even asked what your blood quantum is. I don't care. I care about two things. Are you Native American, and are you a member of do you have a blood quantum, and are you a member of a federally recognized tribe? Because that's a criminal question that I have to ask to see what court or what we can do for services. Other than that, it should not make me a difference if you're full blood or 3/4 or half or quarter or eighth or 1/2000. If you're a member of the Cherokee Nation, in my opinion, we will stand with you. If you're also a member of the Cherokee Nation and you want to uplift the tribe in whatever status that is, whether you're a millionaire and own a football team or you're impoverished, as long as you're positive for the tribe, I will stand next to you. If you're against the tribe, irrelevant of your status, I'm not going to stand with you. So that was kind of the gist of the conversation, but it was put out by some people who are looking at it now. It was an opponent of the chief. Their family members put that out, but heavily edited to make it sound like I had something against higher blood quantum Cherokees, which I absolutely do not. On a personal note, and quite frankly it upset me, Wilma Mankiller and Charlie Soap. Charlie did me and my wife's wedding at Wilma's house. She's one of my biggest heroes, and I'm one of her biggest fans before she passed and after. My second wife stayed at their house through her chemo treatment. I still look fondly on Charlie as a leader of this tribe and somebody I personally look up to. So it offends me that somebody would think that I have something against high blood quantum Cherokees, because it could be further from the truth. I would ask anyone, if you ever think I do, ask me. Ask the people I'm around. One of the people that was in this meeting is a higher blood quantum Cherokee, and she was interviewed by the investigator that looked into it and said that she didn't feel that that was the case at all, that I'm defending all Cherokees when I was having that conversation. And I will continue to defend all Cherokees. I don't care what your blood quantum is. So if there's any question on that, I'm more than happy to answer.
Any questions for Marshal Buell? EO?
Just on a good note, I want to brag on your emergency management team for the town of Braggs and town of Marble. On weekends when there's no water, they stepped up and helped a lot of people. They did a great job.
Well, thank you. I'll let them know that.
That's okay.
Well, I just wanted to kind of conclude your statements by observing that there are individuals in Cherokee Nation who seek to instill and stoke division between people based on inflammatory and unfounded allegations. And I hope that we can continue to conduct ourselves with a standard of moral character and integrity as we move forward and seek to gather ourselves together as a people who are united, moving forward for the betterment of our citizens and our nation. Thank you for the time, Speaker.
Yes, ma'am. Julia?
I just have a quick comment, and it's one thing that I've noticed in the last 20, 25 years of the Cherokee Nation, that an increasing use of the word citizen rather than member. And I think that that's a good rhetorical replacement for that word, because it repeatedly emphasizes exactly what you're talking about, right? That we're not part citizens. We either are or we aren't, right? And that's really what you're looking at when you describe the qualities that you have to look for. It's the one that's recognized by the federal government. It's the one that our relationships with the federal government are based on. We are citizens of a government.
Yes.
Anyway, my comment. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Anybody else? Darrell?
Hey Shannon, in your report, so the prison down in Texas, it has Celebrate Recovery. Is that a program that we're offering while they're incarcerated in that facility?
That's one that we're looking at. So they have like 4 programs that we're looking at.
Uh-huh.
Some of the programs, quite frankly, take longer than our people are going to be there.
Right.
So we're in negotiations with LaSalle to say which program, and I hate to say this, I'm not a social worker, I'm not somebody that knows what's that best thing for that individual.
Yeah.
But, so we're trying to get information on, is there programs out there that meet what we want as a tribe to bring our citizens back and have them a hand up? What does that look like? How much does that cost? And then pick the right program for that citizen that's in that facility. Does that make sense?
Yeah, for the substance abuse, there's 2 that DOC in Oklahoma uses. One's Thinking for a Change.
Okay.
The other one is a little more intensive, and it's called Moral Reconation Therapy, MRT. And I think it's a little more expensive, but those are quality programs that we were looking into. I didn't know that this was going on. This is great.
Yeah, it is. And that's one of the ones, we're trying to do this in phases because it was a shock to us that we couldn't use Oklahoma DOC.
Yeah.
And I'm Oklahoman, okay?
Yeah.
I'm Cherokee, I'm also in Oklahoma. I pay my taxes, I live here, I work here. Our citizens should be able to use facilities in the state of Oklahoma, and it's beyond me to think that the governor wouldn't allow that, but he is not. I mean,
Right.
that's a personal thing from him, and we could spend the next 4 hours debating that. But we can't use those facilities. I wish we could, because Oklahoma has some good programs. And we should all, especially my staff, knows this. I've given a direction to my staff. My goal for any incarcerated Cherokee is to help them so they don't reincarcerate later on. It does me no good spiritually, socially, financially. It doesn't help the tribe if all we're doing is have a revolving door every year or 2 or 3 years. So we're actively looking at programs. One of the programs under my office is the Justice Services. They've been very successful in the healing and wellness court area for juveniles. They're looking for alternatives to incarcerating people, because that should be one of our last options as a tribe to do that. So any program that you can find that I can look at and my staff can look at, I would be more than happy to look at those.
You bet. And so the adult probation services, is that under the marshal service, or
That's
is that
me.
under the
Yep,
courts?
that's under me too.
Okay, okay.
The probation individuals, like the people go out and check. Now,
I
the
got you.
laws for probation, that comes through the AG's office and the courts and you all, and
Okay.
we're the end of it that goes out and enforces that probationary law.
Shannon, appreciate it. Thank you.
Anybody else? Josh?
Yes, I'm not sure how many, was your staff aware of the kind of the threat with the schools in Adair County? I was just wondering if there's something we can do to help with like the threat assessment for some of the schools. I know it originated with one school, but some of the rural schools started getting worried, so that was keeping kids home. So maybe something there that we can help reach out on and maybe provide threat assessments for the.
So some of the things that we're doing, especially just for Sequoia right now, is
Right.
we're going to have added marshals to the football games for the near future. One of them's Friday night. That's also the powwow. That's also stickball. That's also softball. Even though it'll run my men and women kind of ragged, I cannot, in good conscience, have Sequoia playing at NSU without marshal support there. As far as threat assessments, we take that on a kind of one-by-basis threat assessment. It's really tough. It takes a long time to develop one. It's not just walk in and say you need logs. So we don't do that for outside schools. I wouldn't argue looking at that for some of the schools that don't have the resources to do that, and I definitely would love to talk to you offline about that. But right now, we don't go to outside schools, because if I went to Tahlequah and did a threat assessment today, or my team did, then Claremore will call, and Adair will call, and Stillwell will call, and Vian, and my team would be there the next 5 years. So, but we do have resources that those schools can get to. There's online resources and also private entities that can come out and help with that as well. But I don't mind talking offline at all about helping. Okay.
Anybody else? Councilman Callison?
Marshall Buell, on that line of thought, how much progress have we made toward staffing the northern end of the reservation with an more at-presence with the marshals? And I know several of the school districts, in my district, especially on Friday nights, would, like Counselor Sam said, would enjoy that. But are we making progress up that way?
We are. So, post McGirt, we've hired 33 marshals. Pre-McGirt, we were at 31 marshals. So we've over doubled the amount of marshals that we have on the street. A lot of you have called me and said that for the first time in a long time, you've actually seen marshals. And that makes me happy because we're now getting the amount of marshals to there. We're still about halfway to where we could facilitate everybody, but we now have an office in Cherokee Heights. That's officed by a district supervisor, so he can coordinate operations from there. And it's also housed within criminal investigators up there as well. So we're starting that split. I can't give you a full split until we reach 78 or 80. But we've started that kind of moving. The people that live north, we're trying to keep them north so they don't have to drive a tribal vehicle to Tahlequah all the time. So we're starting that move to branch out now, if that makes sense.
Thank you, sir.
Anybody else? Okay, I'd just like to say, a while back when that incident did happen, Marshal Buell did reach out to me that night, somewhat late, and didn't care. But let me know what was going on and told me his side of the story. And being involved in things like that, I've been recorded many times. I won't say many times, but numerous times. I've been recorded from people from Texas who come around and try to get you to say things. That's just what they do. I'm on YouTube several times with, they're trying to get you to violate their civil rights. I mean, I've kind of lived that a little bit. So whenever I listen to that audio, it is obvious it's been doctored a bit. So, and if you want to make something look worse than it is, it's easy to do. But also, being in that position, I'm not condoning, but I will say this: anytime somebody cusses me like a dog, they're liable to get it back. That's just the way I am. I can take it so long. So those things are difficult positions to be put in, but I appreciate you showing me and calling me that night. And I know there's always two sides to a story. Absolutely.
Oh, thank you, Speaker.
So if there's no other questions, all right, thanks, sir. All right, from the Office of the Attorney General, we have Sarah Hill. Or do we? All right. Yep, there she is.
Good afternoon.
Hey, Sarah.
I wanted to thank all of you for an opportunity again to address the Tribal Council. It is always an honor and a pleasure. I also wanted to take a moment to introduce a special guest that we have here today. I know that we have at least one lawyer in the audience. Lawyers are members of their state bar, so I'm a member of the Oklahoma Bar Association, but we have a national association called the American Bar Association that lawyers from all over the United States are members of, and they talk about and study and provide lots of important policy advice and explore all the most important issues involving the law. And so it's sort of the top national organization of lawyers. And that group is led by one lawyer every year. And this year, for the first time ever, that lawyer is a tribal citizen. Her name is Mary Smith. She is a Cherokee Nation citizen, and she is a special guest here today at the Cherokee Nation.
Awesome.
So I wanted to have an opportunity to address the Tribal Council for just a minute, tell them a little bit about yourself.
Well, good Good afternoon, everyone. It's a real honor to be here. Thanks so much for allowing me to be here on the nation. I'm a citizen of the Cherokee Nation. My grandmother grew up in Westville, Oklahoma, and lived in Oklahoma until she got married. And I am very honored to follow her footsteps and be part of the community here. I grew up in Chicago, and even though my grandmother, she grew up, and I'm sure many of you relate to this, she grew up in a time when she only went to school through 8th grade. So it's very improbable that I'm here, standing here as president of the American Bar Association, and I'm very honored to be the first Native American woman to hold this role and to be a citizen of the Cherokee Nation. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
So that's a tough act to follow. I don't really have anything in my report that's going to be as interesting as that is. There are a couple of things. Of course, we've been very busy in transition at the Attorney General's office. This is my very last ever appearance at the Rules Committee meeting. And so I've been busy talking to the person that the Principal Chief has nominated to serve as the next Attorney General, my friend and my coworker of many years, Chad Harshit, that's his name. And I'm sure that the nation's business is going to be in good hands under his watchful eye. And of course, I will be happy to help him in any way I can, as he has always helped me every time he could in the many years that we've worked together. There are a couple of different things that happened this month that I think you should be updated on, though. We filed a couple of amicus briefs. Amicus briefs are briefs we filed to basically a case where the Cherokee Nation is not a party, but we want to be able to provide to the court information that we think is critical to making the decision. One of the cases we filed an amicus brief in is the Stitt v. Treat case. So we were, of course, you all followed the override vote that we had in the Oklahoma legislature on the tobacco compact, the motor vehicle compact cases. We were fortunate enough to have the legislature hear what we were saying about the need to provide an extension of those compacts, and they overrode the governor's veto on both of those. But then Stitt filed a lawsuit against Speaker McCall and Pro Tem Treat. And so we filed, that case is in front of the Oklahoma Supreme Court, or he's asking the Oklahoma Supreme Court to take this case. And along with the Chickasaw Nation and the Choctaw Nation, the Cherokee Nation filed an amicus brief advising the court about why we thought they should not take up this matter, why we did not believe that the lawsuit that was filed by Governor Stitt had any merit. And so we thought that was important to get done. So we did that this month. There's another case called in the matter of SJW. It is a child welfare case in front of the Oklahoma Supreme Court. It's sort of a little more complicated, but the part of the case that's problematic is in that case, the Oklahoma Supreme Court said that if a child is born, it lives on an Indian reservation that is not the reservation of the child's tribe. So for instance, a Creek citizen who was living on the Cherokee Nation reservation, that the state would have jurisdiction, concurrent jurisdiction over that child. That's not what we believe the federal law says. That's not how the federal law has been interpreted. But that's the decision that the Oklahoma Supreme Court made. The Oklahoma Attorney General, actually, this wasn't the argument that anyone made in this case. That's not even the argument the state was making in this case. The state was arguing that it had jurisdiction because of the agreements that had been signed between the Cherokee Nation and all the other different tribes in the state regarding concurrent jurisdiction. But that's not how the Oklahoma Supreme Court saw it. The Oklahoma Attorney General filed a motion for rehearing, asking the court to basically reconsider the decision that it made, consider withdrawing that decision and issuing a new decision consistent with the law. And the Cherokee Nation, the Chickasaw Nation, and the Choctaw Nation filed an amicus brief in support of that, saying we agree. This case you should withdraw this decision. You should issue a new decision that's consistent with the view that we believe of the law that is correct. So we've also filed that brief. So those are a couple of different legal issues that are going on. There's still multiple other issues, as you all know, because I report on them every month, areas that we're concerned about and cases we're keeping an eye on. But those two are I think the two that are worth highlighting this month from our work. And except for that, it's mostly we've been involved with making sure that we're putting together a solid foundation for the new Attorney General to take office during transition. So if you have any other questions for me, if I'm able to answer them, I will be happy to do so.
Does anybody have any questions for Attorney General Hill? Joe?
Hey, can you just give people an update about the Hooper, and then I went to O'Brien and where we are? And before you do that, can you tell me where we are with like doing MOUs like we did with Verdigris in other cities, and how many across the 14 counties we've got completed versus how many we don't?
Yes, I can do all of those things.
It's a two-part question, but a long answer.
It's not a problem.
Thank you, sir.
On the Hooper case, so Hooper, O'Brien, and Schaefer are 3 cases, and there's another, Stitt is actually a 4th one. There are 4 cases that involve similar issues. The city of Tulsa is arguing that it has jurisdiction over Indians on the reservation. In the Hooper case, which we've talked about before, of course, that case has gone up to the 10th Circuit on the Curtis Act issue. And the 10th Circuit did not find the city of Tulsa's argument that the Curtis Act somehow enabled them to continue to have jurisdiction over Indians on the reservation. They were not persuaded by that. So they said, we find the city of Tulsa does not have jurisdiction here. Hooper has been remanded back down to the district court now. So I think there's some question about what arguments the city of Tulsa is going to make, or what's going to happen to the case on remand. Are there going to be new arguments made about, if they don't have jurisdiction under the Curtis Act? Are there some other arguments the city of Tulsa might make about why it would have jurisdiction? Because I think that given the 10th Circuit's decision and the fact that the Supreme Court refused to stay that case pending cert, there may be some shakiness about the city of Tulsa's calculation that they want to take a run at the Curtis Act all the way to the Supreme Court. That's where Schaefer and O'Brien come in. Those are 2 other city of Tulsa cases. And in those cases, the city of Tulsa is not just arguing the Curtis Act. They're arguing that they have jurisdiction because they believe that the state has concurrent jurisdiction over Indians in Indian country. And that is a different argument than what the city of Tulsa has been making to date. There is a lot of case law on this topic, a lot of federal law that says that the state lacks jurisdiction over Indians on an Indian reservation. But because of what Kavanaugh said in his, that he and I think it was Justice Alito, when the rest of the court refused to stay the case, Kavanaugh and Alito put a little note in. Wasn't a decision, it's not binding on anyone, but they did just include a little note saying, well, we actually think the city of Tulsa may still have jurisdiction. City of Tulsa got this little sort of love note, and they like this idea. And also, there are some footnotes in Castro Huerta, which leads them to believe that perhaps there's an argument to be made that the state has concurrent jurisdiction over non-member Indians, or non-citizen Indians, which is, again, the situation where you may have a Creek Indian on the Cherokee Reservation if you're not on your own tribe's reservation. And so we'll see that they're making some of those arguments now in some of these other courts. These cases, O'Brien and Schaefer, are not set to come up to the court of to the 10th Circuit. They're not headed toward the federal court. They're headed to the state courts, which in Oklahoma, the highest court for criminal cases is the Court of Criminal Appeals. So that's sort of the state of those cases. Those are cases that are on our watch list for sure. We're paying very close attention to them, and I think the arguments that the city of Tulsa is making are things that are bear watching, certainly. And then on the second part of what was the second part of your question again?
Well, I'll finish up this one. The trend now in Tulsa is if a tribal citizen gets pulled over for a ticket, people are telling them just go ahead and file an appeal, and the court dismisses it.
Yeah, the court
As soon
has.
as they do. They automatically dismiss it because they don't want that type of pressure.
Well,
And that's sort of happening a lot, and a lot of people are seeing that. So they're wanting to know, is there going to ever be an end to this? Is it, them dealing with the Curtis Act versus, our jurisdiction? The second part was the MOU and contracts with everybody else.
The MOU. I have to make a note or I'm going to forget again. Yeah, there have been dismissals. I saw that Judge McCune, who's one of the judges in the city of Tulsa, has dismissed a few cases, finding that given the decision of, in the Hooper case, that he believes the city lacks jurisdiction. That doesn't mean that the issue is going to go away. It doesn't mean that the city of Tulsa has decided that they aren't going to pursue those. The city of Tulsa's judge is independent of the city of Tulsa as an entity, just like the district court judge here sometimes says, hey, Cherokee Nation, I think you lose this case. They're free to decide cases how they want to. That doesn't mean that the city itself is not going to keep making those arguments. So it's definitely, I think, not settled, at least not now. On the MOUs, we still are making good progress on MOUs. We've added Roland recently. I think we're up to 26, is it? 20, I think we have 26 municipalities now that have signed agreements, and we have several others that are, moving along, moving in the hopper. So I think we are looking forward to having additional cities join. So on the one hand, it's this model of Oklahoma where it's very easy for people to think that the tribes and the state, or the tribes and cities, don't get along. And that's really not the case. That's looking at if you just look at a tiny part of the picture, you might think that's the case. Broadly, Cherokee Nation and the state get along fine. Look at the override vote. Broadly, Cherokee Nation and the municipalities get along great. Look at the 26 agreements that we already have. It really, you have to open your view up much more broadly, I think, to see the real picture of what's going on in the reservations between the state and the municipalities and the state and the tribes.
There have been revisions, because we're having to educate people when it comes to the verbatim that's in there, what we're dealing with. Catoosa's one of them, and Claremore's one of them. We've sent the agreement over, and they're having to revision just because they don't understand the wording in it. So is that all the way across the other ones when you send an MOU, or some of them just sign it and send it in?
For the most part, they're very similar. All of them are, they're not all identical, but they're all very similar. We've had a few that we've had to make very minor changes to. And if there's some concern or some issue that Claremore or Catoosa has, a lot of times though, it's the real problem is we haven't had enough discussion about it. We need to sit down and talk about the mechanics of how is this going to work, more so than it is a situation where it's just not possible to. So I think that the fundamental language of the MOUs has really survived a lot of different communities with very few changes. But if we need to sit down and talk in more detail, the AG's office, certainly for the next 24 hours. But I suspect well beyond that, the AG's office is going to be very happy to continue to work with them to find ways to satisfy their concerns.
Okay, so yeah, they called, and Claremore and Catoosa have the same attorneys. And they are going to do revisions, and then they're going to send it in, and then they want to have a sit-down.
That's great.
And I said, it's fine, we'll have that other guy, what's his name? Chad Harshaw.
I think
yeah.
that's right.
Sarah, thanks for all you've done working here, and good luck.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
Councilman Coates.
I don't have a question, but I am remembering today, this day 4 years ago, when I expressed what great delight I was feeling at your nomination and confirmation that day, and I just want to say that delight has continued through these 4 years. You've done just a wonderful, wonderful job in very, very exciting and very challenging and stressful times, and I know that this nation is grateful to you for expanding our sovereignty, being one of the people in the lead of doing that, and for everything else that you've done throughout these years. I know we've got a good person coming in, but that doesn't prevent me from saying you will be missed. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I am filled with gratitude to the Cherokee Nation. This career it's been beyond my imagining, and I am so grateful for it. I'm incredibly grateful to Chief Hoskin for giving me an opportunity to do this job. He did not know what he was placing in my hands 4 years ago. He could not have known. I did not know what he was placing in my hands. And I hope that, I certainly have made my share of mistakes like any human would in a position like this, but I've always done the best I could, and I hope that the balance of good I've done has exceeded the mistakes that I've made in this job.
Anybody else? Melvina.
Did you talk to the chief of police at Kansas? You haven't talked to him?
You what?
The chief of police at Kansas, did you talk to him, Mike?
No, I have not.
Okay, a question now to you.
Scared
Okay,
me.
if they pay a fine to the city, and then on top of it, they gotta pay a fine for having Cherokee Nation tag, is that?
They
were fined, the fine was $204, and they told her that she had to pay $60 more because she had a Cherokee Nation tag.
Yeah, that is not correct. The Cherokee Nation tags are, if her tag was out of date, so if she had a tag that was, that was not up to date, and she was getting a tag for improper display, or there was some other circumstance but just for having a Cherokee Nation tag, no, that's very much incorrect. That's not how that's supposed to work.
Okay. Well, we're going to follow up with the
They
chief
put
of
that on
police, you know,
themselves.
about that.
Stack it on themselves.
Right.
Well,
as
thank
an
you, and thank you for your
inconvenience,
service.
basically.
Thank you, ma'am.
I don't care. EO,
I just want to say, you know, every time I drive by Sequoia Fuels, I think of all that great effort you did on that and helped our environment so much, and I know that was an awesome job, and I just tell you, everybody in Sequoia County appreciates that. Thank you.
Thank you. That was one of those things that I will never forget. It's of the things I've done, that's one of those unforgettable things that there must have been divine intervention for that to go as well as it did, because there was a big mess when we started, for it to all work out the way that it did.
anybody else? Victoria?
Just have a comment, Sarah. I, too, feel the same way as Julia. I was so excited when you were confirmed, and the years have gone by way too fast. I appreciate all the times that you answered my phone calls at whatever time, always gave me a good answer, and you've been a big help to me as a tribal counselor and as a woman serving, and I've enjoyed every moment serving alongside with you, and I look forward to seeing what you do in the future. So thank you very much.
Deputy Speaker, that feeling is mutual. Thank you, ma'am.
Anybody else? Okay, well, I'll just have to say this, Sarah, I really didn't know you when you came in, but I got a crash course in knowing Sarah Hill. You know, I got to sit with you in Kansas and Rose and different places in Oaks and talk about the chicken houses and the shortcomings of the rules that allowed them to do so, and it was a difficult time. And since then, you know, it seems like time after time, there's been different kind of attacks against our sovereignty and even questions on the tribal council, and I've got to sit here and watch you and work with you, and I want to reflect what Councilman Coates said. You know, it's been an honor because you've handled yourself well, you've represented the nation well. I can't imagine anybody doing any better than what you've done in your tenure here. I respect you very much because I believe, and I watch you, you do have a passion what you do, and you do show that passion and love for your work. So you will be missed. You will. And I know Chad Harshaw will do a good job, but I also know this, that, you know, every closed door opens another one. And I have no doubt that you will be successful in whatever you choose to do, Sarah. And thank you for all you've done for the Cherokee Nation.
The honor has been all mine, Speaker. Thank you so much.
Okay. Yes, ma'am. Okay, next up from FOIA and GRA, we have Gwen Terrapin.
Good afternoon. It's good to see all of you
Hey,
today.
Gwen.
And congratulations to our newly elected council members. For our FOIA and GRA, to date, we've got 23 FOIAs. 3 of those are outstanding, no GRAs, and everything's been updated on the website. And all of you should have a copy of my report.
Does anybody have any questions for Gwen? All right, Gwen, good report. Thank you.
Thank you.
And next from the Tax Commission, she was here 4 hours ago, Sharon Swepston. That was impressive, Sharon. Boy, I mean.
Good afternoon. I'd just like to highlight a couple of things in my report. As far as motor vehicle goes, we're at 1.99%, a little bit less than where we were through June last year. Excuse me. But with revenue and taxation, we're actually 20% ahead more than where we were through June last year. Pardon me. We also have a full staff at J. Yay.
Yay.
We've added 3 more at Catoosa, so I believe that leaves us 5 agents and a supervisor there, so we're getting there. Slowly but surely. So that's my report. I'll try to answer any questions that you might have.
I'll just go ahead and say, you know, right there in Catoosa, the tag agency, since you've added those people, that they said that one guy was in there 3 minutes
Yay.
because he had his paperwork ready. But he was surprised because he went in there and there was 4 windows open. He said he'd never seen 4 windows open.
We're trying. It's just really hard to get those positions filled, and I hope we've got some good people there and they'll stay. So.
Yeah, that's always the issue, and if they'll stay. But just give them a little feedback that, yeah, they did really well, so it's good to have those phone calls sometimes, because, we always get a lot of unpleasant phone calls.
Yes.
But, yeah, those are good calls, so thank you.
Uh-huh.
Anybody else? It's a good report, Sharon. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next from the Gaming Commission. Actually, she's not from the Gaming Commission, but Janet Purcell can't be here, so Tara Lee is going to answer any and all questions.
I would be happy to take questions.
Oh, okay. Does anybody have any questions for Tara Lee about gaming or anything else? I do too.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to let you off easy. Thank you, Tara Lee. All right, from Human Resources, we have Samantha Hendricks. Samantha.
So here we are again, huh?
Yep.
You have my report, I'll be happy to answer any questions that you have. I did want to provide a little reminder, because I always have a couple of things to add. One is that our open interviews will continue.
Microphone.
Thank you. I thought I was loud enough, maybe. So you have my report. In addition to that, I have a couple of things I did want to mention. One is that we are continuing to have our open interviews on Tuesday in Tahlequah. We have expanded some of those out to the 14 counties. So we're doing the first Wednesday of the month at Nowata, the second Wednesday of the month, which will still be in Veneta, and then the third Wednesday of the month, we plan to head to Muskogee, to Three Rivers. So we're continuing to see a good progress with applicants coming in with our open interviews where they can walk in and we can help them with an interview right then. We're seeing a lot of good success for that. So we are going to expand to some of the other ones. We're just taking it one step at a time. We have a little bit of a limited staff, but they're getting very good at doing these open interviews. In addition to that, just as a reminder, you can text to 97211 Cherokee Jobs to apply in English or Cherokee, either one, on our site. Welcome for anyone that is looking at our positions to definitely apply for those positions. So I'm always a recruiter. So.
Anybody have any questions for us? Joe?
How's the software going as far as response time when somebody applies for the job, when they get that email back that it's being reviewed? Have we got that process down?
We do. We
What is
absolutely do.
the timing now for the response?
I don't have the exact timing with me today, but I know it's gone down dramatically
It's
since
less
we
than
started.
months, right? So-
Oh, my gosh, yes. Yes. I mean,
Okay.
somebody applies, we have it set up to where it'll automatically give them a response. And of
Yeah.
course, we have our recruitment team there that's definitely going to answer any questions they have. We are going to be going through an upgrade that's going to happen next month, which will actually improve those communications dramatically.
All right, that's good. Thank you. Thank you.
Anybody else? All right, Samantha, thank you. Good report.
Thank you.
All right, next we have old business, none pending. New business. Okay, number one, Victoria, would you take that, please?
Yes, this will be a selection of tribal council committee chairs and co-chairs. And,
That form of motion?
I'm sorry.
Motion.
Oh, yeah, motion to approve.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? All right, motion carries. Okay, we're going to start with our nominations for chair and co-chair of our committees. And what we're going to do, obviously this isn't a race, but I will take all nominations and then we will vote. If there's more than one person nominated for that particular chair or co-chair, we will go by roll call vote by council and you will pick one or the other. Okay? So first up, first opening we have is co-chair for rules, Victoria.
Yes. I nominate Johnny Kidwell.
All right. I have a motion for Johnny Kidwell. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Is there, well, let me back up. We can't do that. Is there anybody else that wants to make a nomination for the co-chair? Okay, we're going to revote. I'm sorry. All in favor of Johnny Kidwell being the co-chair of rules, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, congratulations, Councilman Kidwell. All right, number two is going to be our E&F chair. Candace?
I would like to nominate Counselor Joshua Sam as the Executive and Finance Chair.
Second.
Okay. Is there any other nominations? Okay, all in favor? All opposed? All right, you're the new chair. Do you have a
Yeah.
question?
Yes, do I need to resign as a co-chair for the next
That
time?
would probably be pertinent.
Okay, yep.
So you're
Yeah, I'll make a
you're
motion to
resigning
resign
for-
as the co-chair.
Okay. So now we need to nominate a co-chair. Well, we can just accept his resignation.
I make a motion to nominate Kevin Easley as the ENF co-chair.
Are there any other nominations? All in favor? All opposed? Okay, education chair is now up. Do I have any nominations for education chair? Danny?
Yes, I'd like to nominate Odessa T.E.
Is there any other nominations? All in favor? All opposed? Okay, motion carries.
Before we move forward, I would like to put forth my resignation as co-chair for the Cultural Committee.
Okay, you're accepted. Okay, education co-chair, need to take Candessa.
I'd like to nominate Danny Callison for Education Co-Chair.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All right, we have a second. Any other nominations? Okay, all in favor? All opposed? All right, congratulations, Danny. Okay, health co-chair, do I have Victoria?
Yes, I would like to nominate Dora Paskowski.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Are there any other nominations? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? All right. Dora's the new health co-chair. That brings us to resource chair. Do I have any nominations? Joe?
Nominate EO.
Okay. Are there any other nominations for resource chair? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Congratulations, EO. You moved up in the world. No, he
was co-chair.
he was, yeah. You do, if you choose to yeah, you need to resign your,
I need to resign as co-chair of the rules, resource.
okay. Okay, well, your resignation is accepted. So, do I have a nominations for resource co-chair?
I'd like to do our new council lady, Lisa.
Lisa Hall. I have a motion. Do I have a second? Are there any other nominations for that chair or co-chair? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Congratulations, ma'am. That brings us to community service chair. So Darrell was the chair, but so we have, let's see, you don't have to, you went through an election, so we have to redo that. So do I have a motion?
I make a motion for Daryl Legg to be the chair of community.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any other nominees? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Candessa?
My resignation as Culture Co-Chair created a vacancy, and I would like to submit Cody Poindexter as the Culture Co-Chair.
Second?
Okay, that is our last nomination will be for that. So we have a motion and a second. Are there any other nominees? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, I believe, Shelley, that, well, we'll get to that in a
Well,
second. That gets all our chairs and co-chairs, correct? Okay. Next comes our secretary of the tribal council.
Do we have to do the those positions today?
We will
Okay.
get to that
Okay.
in a minute. Yes, I know. But we also have a chair, or we have our secretary too. We're going to do our advisory council, or we have to do our secretary of the council too. Do what? In my book, it's, let's see. Okay, never mind then. I didn't see it on, I don't have anything else on my book in order, so I just went in order. Okay, selection advisory council board members.
I'm sorry, I'd like to resign my position on the Gaming Commission Advisory Board.
Okay, it's accepted. All right. This is kind of going to be the same way. It's difficult to have these things informal in a way, in that, you know, if we have 3 openings and we ask who wants to serve on these committees, and, you know, you raise your hand if we have more than what's open, and we've always done in the past where we've tried to maybe talk it out a little bit to see if somebody wanted to step back and do something else different. So if that doesn't work out, then we'll just have to take nominations for these. But we will see how it goes. That's the way it's been done in the past. So first up, for Cherokee Nation businesses, 3 of 8 positions are open, so we have 3 openings. So do I have anybody who wants to? So Joe Deere, Josh Sams, Kevin Easley, that's 3 that would fill the role. Is there any more? Okay. All right, council, we have Josh Sams, Kevin Easley, and Joe Deere. I guess we just go ahead and vote on it. All in favor of those 3? Aye. All opposed? All right, that carries. All right, Gaming Commission. We have 2 positions out of 3 available. EO is the lone wolf here left over. So do I have any, does anybody want to sit on the Gaming Commission board? Any nominations? Yeah, and you resigned. You started this whole thing. Anybody want to sit on the, Melvina?
Well, I attend them anyway. I don't see any other council.
Okay. Well, yeah, well, we have 2 of the 3 positions. So if nobody else wants to sit on it.
And Mr. Speaker, Chair, just to clarify, if you're on the CMB Advisory Board, you cannot be on Gaming Commission.
That is-
They are mutually exclusive.
That
All
is
right.
correct.
Copy that. Thank you.
Yes. Okay, well then, apparently we would just have 2 instead of 3.
I can stay on.
That's up to you.
Yeah, I'll stay on.
Okay, well, there you go. All right, yay. All right, so we have Melvina and Lisa. So all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Good. Okay, Housing Authority. Actually, we have, I believe, 1 of 5 open.
Speaker,
Well, yes.
I'd like to resign my position on the Housing Authority Board, and
Okay. And we have, in this instance, we had an alternate, Danny was an alternate, and are you okay with that, with sitting on that board? Yes. Okay. Anybody else?
Do we need to replace the alternate?
If we can. Does anybody want to be an alternate to the Housing Authority? Okay, Sasha? Okay, so we have Sasha, Josh, and Danny. So if there are no further, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay. All right, the last one, intertribal, and it says 4 of 4 positions are open. I think as I know I can't really nominate, I shouldn't nominate myself, but I would like to sit on this board for the simple reason of I am at the intertribal meetings, I interact with the other tribes. So I would like to sit on it. In the past, I have acted as an alternate when our alternates weren't there. So, and Joe Deere, Kevin, Danny. So that fills it up. Is there anybody else?
Mike, should I nominate you?
Yeah, you can. Yeah. Okay, well, I'll accept that. So and an alternate, we need an alternate for that. So that'll be Danny, Joe, and Kevin.
Is Dora continuing? She was in an election, so she.
Oh, that's right.
I would like to retain my seat.
Okay, so we have one too many then, correct? Okay, that'll work. Kevin, okay. So does anybody else want a piece of that? I believe that fills it up. Okay, so we got Joe, Danny, and Dora in the intertribal, and Kevin will be an alternate, and myself. Yes, okay. All in favor? All opposed? All right, carries. All right, congratulations to all new chairs and co-chairs. Okay, that brings us to 3.
Mr. Speaker,
Yes,
I would like to, I would like to nominate Dora Petskowski, make this a resolution, electing a member of the Tribal Council to the office of Secretary. Put that in form of a motion.
and we have a motion and a second. Are there any other nominees for that position? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Congratulations, you're back in.
Thank you.
All right. Number
Mr. Chair.
4.
Mr.
Yes.
Chair, pardon me, I would like, at this point, I'd like to amend the agenda to place, to make a motion to amend the agenda to include an act amending Title 51 of the Cherokee Nation Code annotated pertaining to the filing of vacancy in a position of the Attorney General.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Councilman, you want to quickly?
There's not, we've all discussed this at length already in the past week. This is a correction to Title 51, the section for the filling the vacancy to align our statute with the Constitution, verbiage of the Constitution. And it's on everyone's desk. Mr. Chair.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Yes, it will be, let's see, have to be before. Yes,
Yeah.
yes, have to be before 10. So, okay, after 9. It'll be 9A or whatever you want to
9A.
call it. 9A will work.
Sounds good.
Okay. Number 4, Darrell Legg, would you take that, please?
This is a resolution confirming the renomination of Derek Green as Registrar of the Cherokee Nation. I put that in form of motion.
We have a motion and a second.
Before we move forward, I feel I should disclose that I am a cousin to Derek Van. However, having spoke with our council attorney on the previous nomination, he is neither a member of my immediate family nor lives in my household. Therefore, it does not represent a conflict of interest. However, in the interest of transparency, I wanted to make sure that I revealed that association.
Thank you, Councilman. All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? All right, congratulations, Derek. All right, number 5, Councilman Kidwell, would you take that, please?
Yes, Mr. Chair. This is a resolution confirming the renomination of Stanley Joe Crittenden as Secretary of Veteran Affairs for the Cherokee Nation, and I place this in the form of a motion.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
I
All
think
right.
we would all like to second that, but we can
Yeah.
only have one, so.
Yeah, okay. All in favor? All opposed? Secretary Crittenden, you want to say a few words? You're standing, you act like you do.
Congratulations to the new chairs and co-chairs of the committees. You got a great job to do here for our people, and I plan on hanging around and serving our veterans and anybody else that I can help. We're a servant people. We should have a servant heart, and I thoroughly enjoy it. So thank you all so much. Appreciate you.
All right, number 6, Councilman Callison, would you take that?
A resolution confirming the nomination of Janice Taylor as treasurer of the Cherokee Nation. I put this in the form of a motion.
Second.
Any discussion? Boy, there's a lot of things that need to be said, but we probably keep them to ourselves, huh? All right, all in favor? Aye. All opposed? Congratulations, Denise, you're just a glutton for punishment.
I want to say that it is an absolute pleasure, all the work that I've done for Cherokee Nation. When I was a counselor, I viewed it as a ministry to see how many lives I could change in that length of time, and I look at the treasurer's position no differently. So if there's anything that I or my staff can do to help your constituents, we stand ready to do that. It is an honor to be here. I never in my wildest dreams thought that this is where my accounting degree would take me. So I look forward to serving with you all, some newly elected and some continuing to serve with you. Thank you for your confidence in me.
Well, Janice, thank you. You've done an outstanding job. Okay, next. Well, before we get into 7, Chief, you want to get up and say some words? Because we're getting into some of your cabinet picks and things like that.
Well, everyone seems in a good mood, so it'd be a good time to come up and say hello. But I wanted to thank you, Mr. Speaker and members of the council. I wanted to express my appreciation for the team that has served the Deputy Chief and I so well for the last term. Those outgoing cabinet members have just provided extraordinary service. Those that are continue in their office provide extraordinary service. The Deputy Chief and I took the same approach to the second term with new cabinet members, and give it a great deal of thought and review. I also want you to know how much respect I have for the council and the constitutional role that you play in confirmation of not only the cabinet nominees, but our registrar, which you just confirmed, the delegate to Congress, and all of the other positions. I know that it's an important job that you have to review these nominees, our Supreme Court Justice as well, but they have my full confidence. And Mr. Speaker, thank you.
Thank you, Chief. All right, number 7, Joe Deere, do you want to take that?
This is a resolution confirming the renomination of Kimberly Teehee as the Cherokee Nation delegate to Congress, and I'll put that in the form of a motion.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Number 8. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't see you there, Kimberly. All right. Speak.
It's been my, extraordinary honor to take this journey along with Chief Hoskin and with the council as we break the glass ceiling to finally get the United States to honor our treaty right. And we won't finish, in a way that is going to diminish any of our rights. We're going to complete this journey, and I hope that we get it done soon. Thank you.
Thank you. Glad to have you back. All right, number 8, EO, would you take that, please?
It's a resolution confirming the nomination of Christina Justice as Secretary of Natural Resources of the Cherokee Nation. Put this in the form of a motion.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Congratulations. Come on up. Yeah, you got to talk.
I just
Not
want
for
to
too long.
thank Chief Hoskin for his faith in me, and you as the council for your faith in me to do this position, and the leadership of Secretary Harsha over the last several years. I am profoundly excited to do this job, and I think it's one of the most important things. The preservation of our environment and natural resources is one of the most important things that we can do as Cherokee people, and I'm extremely honored, and I thank you all very much for your faith. Thanks.
All right, thank you, ma'am. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Okay, that brings us to 9. Councilman Sam, would you take that, please?
This is a resolution confirming the nomination of Sheila Bolin as the Secretary of State of the Cherokee Nation. I put this in form of a motion.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Julia?
Hi. Ms. Bolin, I just wanted to give the opportunity. Is she here?
Yep, step on up.
Yeah. I'm looking at your resume, and it's very very impressive in terms of your professional experience in the corporate world, in marketing, in finance, and things like this. As Secretary of State nominee, I wanted to give you this opportunity to share with us also some of your experience in tribal governance, in your knowledge of tribal relations, relations between tribes and states, these kinds of aspects of things that will also be part of the world of as being Secretary of State.
Thank you, Councilor Coates. I have not worked specifically for Cherokee Nation. I have been with Cherokee Nation businesses just shy of 19 years. In 2004 is when I started. So I have supported efforts with the Cherokee Nation over the years, different business cases, whether that's counselors' request for us to look at business opportunities or needs that citizens have. Although I don't have direct experience, I do feel like I do have some knowledge. I have a lot to learn, but there is a great team here, and I hope to bring some of my skills that I've used at CNB here to the Cherokee Nation. And I'm very honored just to be nominated, and I look forward, to serving the Cherokee Nation.
Can you describe what you might conceive as being differences between the corporate world that you're describing and the world of government and tribal governance?
The biggest difference, in my opinion, is at CNB, we are there to make profits for our shareholder and provide those dividends to Cherokee Nation to serve our citizens and provide critical services for our citizens.
Do you have anything else you can offer to assure me that there are understandings of things that go on in the Office of Secretary of State that have to do with diplomatic relationships between the tribe and the state, diplomatic relationships between this tribe and other tribes that have to do with these of governance and policy types of relationships that really are what the Secretary of State's office is largely about?
Councilor Coates, I will not say I have the expertise to speak to that. I do feel like we have an excellent team of government relations, our chief, the Office of the Attorney General, that would support, in handling those matters. Thank you.
Anybody else? All right, all in favor? Aye. All opposed? Aye. All right,
Thank you all.
congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Okay, we have Councilman Kidwell.
Yes, Mr. Chair. This is an act amending Title 51 of the Cherokee Nation Code annotated pertaining to the filing of a vacancy in the position of the Attorney General, and I put this forward in form of motion.
And that will be seen as 9A. Any discussion? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Number 10. Candace, would you take that, please?
This is a resolution confirming the nomination of Chad Harsha as Attorney General of the Cherokee Nation, and I put this forward in the form of a motion.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Congratulations, sir. Come up to the mic.
Mr. Speaker, ladies and gentlemen of the council, thank you for the opportunity to be here today. I'm truly humbled to have the opportunity to be nominated and approved to be the Attorney General of the Cherokee Nation. As you all know, it's unprecedented times in Indian country, and I look forward to moving forward on the great work that has been done and will continue to be done to protect the sovereign interests of the nation, and look forward to presenting the nation's work before this body at regular meetings. So thank you.
Congratulations, sir. It's going to be good working with you. Okay, number 11. I can't read that. Yep. Number 11, Dora, would you take that?
Yes, this is a resolution confirming the nomination of Tina Glory Jordan to the Supreme Court of the Cherokee Nation, and I put that in the form of a motion.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Julia.
I want to express some strong concerns about this nomination. Secretary Glory Jordan, I want to make it clear that my concerns are not personal. I know there are a lot of things that have been flying around that are very subjective, and so I'm not going to participate in that. It's not my intention to make personal challenges here. You and I served concurrently on the Tribal Council for 8 years. We butted heads during that time on a number of occasions. I have chosen to move on. I believe that you have as well. And at this time, our relationship has been respectful and cordial over these past 4 years. I hope you would agree with that assessment. So my remarks are not about Secretary Jordan herself, but it is about the positions and offices that she has held in relation to the one that she is now nominated for. It is not good practice to have people who have formerly served as elected officials in the government, in the political life of this nation, in other words, sitting on the courts of this nation or of any nation. And I've tried to recall if I have ever seen an instance of that either in the federal system or in the state systems, and I am not coming up with a single one anywhere in this country that I can know about. We have done this once before in 2007, and as I'm sure the chief would point out, as he did 4 years ago on a different nominee, I voted for that person. That was literally within my first few days on this council. With 16 years later here and 3 additional terms, I would not make that vote again, as I have learned and thought more and more about the principles of good governance. But I want to emphasize that what we're doing here is placing a politician onto the Supreme Court. And I can just imagine the hue and cry that would go up among Americans if the President of the United States did that, no matter what party they were from. The reason for this is that when we serve in political capacity, we inevitably end up advocating, taking public political positions on things, and getting into differences. There are always going to be people who oppose us. Sometimes that's going to escalate, sometimes on the part of the person opposing us, sometimes on our own parts, unfortunately. But that is unfortunately, inevitably, a part of political life in this nation. All of us at this table are polarizing figures to some degree or another, and I would say that this is also the case with Secretary Jordan. And again, that's not meant as a criticism. I am also a polarizing figure in the political life of this nation, and I acknowledge that. Many of us at this table are, and if we aren't now, we will be by the time we get to the ends of our terms to some degree or another. I would also state with all certainty that many people in this nation already regard our courts as highly politicized. And I would have to say that I am unfortunately probably one of them, just because of my own personal experience in those courts 8 years ago. So this is not about Secretary Jordan herself or her personal characteristics, but it really is just about, this is a much more fundamental principle. And it is that we are putting someone who has been in the political life of this nation onto a body which is supposed to be, to bend over backwards, to be impartial. And when someone already has a number of public policy positions, when someone already has a number of opposition, people who are oppositional because of the political life that that person has been in for many years, it's very, very difficult to consider the court as an impartial and apolitical body. Unfortunately, we're seeing this in the United States. We're seeing a Supreme Court which is increasingly being regarded by people on all sides as a politicized entity. And what that's resulting in, if the polls are to be believed, is a lack of confidence in that court system. I don't think we at the Cherokee Nation are at a place where we have a widespread lack of confidence in our court systems. And especially given the McGirt ruling recently, I don't want us to go there. And so these are my concerns when I bring up my statement here. The other thing I would point out is that we have another polarizing, longtime political figure in our nation's recent history, who is the attorney on a disproportionate number of cases that are coming in front of our courts at this time, some of which, maybe many of which, will ultimately be heard in front of the Supreme Court. So I want to point out that this attorney is representing not only issues and principles as they see them, but they're also representing plaintiffs and defendants, real people, some of whom are former employees, some of whom are community people who feel that they have differences of some sort with actions that have been taken by the Cherokee Nation. And so I have concerns when the nominee in front of us and this particular attorney have been very publicly oppositional to each other in the past, and yet we're setting up a situation where only one of them, or where one of them is going to have the authority to adjudicate over the other. And so that's a problem also as I see it. So these are my concerns and my questions. I have no doubt that Secretary Jordan's nomination will be approved by this body, albeit without my vote. But ultimately, my question here stems from these concerns. And so it's a rhetorical question at first, but it is, if you will take the opportunity to assure the citizens of the Cherokee Nation that you will do your utmost, in fact, given your political past and the polarizing perceptions that continue to surround that you will adjudicate the cases in front of you, bend over backwards to adjudicate the cases in front of you with the highest degree of impartiality and holding only to the law in its most straightforward interpretation, no matter what your previous public stances on political issues may have been, and no matter who the attorney or the individual citizens standing in front of you may be. Now, that is a rhetorical question because nobody's going to say no to that question, right? So it almost renders a response of yes meaningless. And I presume that you would say yes to this question. Another related question, and this will be my conclusion here, I assure you, because we do want to hear from you, and I do as well. Another related question to me is that this nomination is demonstrating why it's not a good idea to place former elected officials, especially members of the legislative branch, onto the court that may be deciding the legality or constitutionality of actions that have been taken by that branch. Will you recuse from cases that may come before the Supreme Court, such as the recent challenge to accept the Compensation Committee's report, from which you also would stand to benefit financially, or other challenges to laws and resolutions of this nation that you may have had a role in drafting and passing. So that's my statement. Those are my questions and concerns. Thank you very much.
You can do it now or wait.
I'd like to say that first, I'm honored to have been nominated for this position by the chief. I'm honored that I'm able to come in front of this council today and hopefully gain your support for this position. Just one small correction, and I know, Julia, you probably don't realize this, but the counsel for a former president is sitting on the U.S. Supreme Court now. I believe it's Justice Kagan, and she was the counsel for the president that nominated her. So there is precedent in other jurisdictions.
Is that an elected position?
What the, well, she certainly would have worked with that president very closely.
I don't have a problem with that. Cabinet members and so forth, it's the elected political positions that I'm speaking about.
Okay.
But thank you for
But I did
enlightening me on
wanna-
that. I do
and-
appreciate
And
that.
appears to be doing a very good job on the U.S. Supreme Court. There is a opportunity anytime someone sees a conflict in front of the Supreme Court with one of the justices that might be hearing the case, there is a concept called recusal. And that has from time to time, as a case comes in front of someone, that has from time to time been utilized. So there is a method by which, if there is a concern, and it is a legitimate concern, then we can look at that opportunity as a fact pattern might arise. Also, I would like to tell everybody, just as I did 4 years ago, and now that Julia and I have seen 4 years of how, when I'm in a different job, we have a different relationship. On the council, honestly, we did have our differences, but the last 4 years, because this is a different type of job, I've adapted. You're still on the council, but I have adapted to my job, and I really believe that in that last 4 years you saw a difference, and certainly a difference in our relationship. I have the ability, I believe, to work with anyone. I've often said to people that I've worked with, we don't have to like each other. We just have to come with our ideas and do what is best for the Cherokee people. I'm coming into this position with a very open mind. I have what has been handed to me to be the Bible of what Supreme Court justices need to remember about the past of what decisions have been made by the Supreme Court. Because you look to the past to predict what the future will be. These are cases that generally, unless there's something different about the fact pattern, you can look to the past to kind of get an idea of what you need to do in the future. I have deliberately not read these yet, because what I want to happen is, if I am honored with your vote today, if I'm honored with your faith today, that as a case comes to us, we will look at the fact pattern, we will look at the argument, we will look at the briefs, we will see what law we need to provide. And then something that is very important for everybody to remember, there are 5 people sitting on the Supreme Court. One vote is only worth 20%. So I believe that keeps everybody on a level playing field. I know there's been a lot of activity on social media. I dispute a great deal of it. I've even, this is another opportunity to say people have the right to say what they want to say. And we just move on. I've been in private practice for 42 years. Kevin and I talked about this the other day. You see all kinds of different things coming in the door. You adapt. You adapt every day. The same way with the Secretary of State position, which I was very honored to serve in. I hope and believe I've done a good job. I was ready for something new. This opportunity came to us, and I believe I can do a good job for you. And I'm coming with a very, very open mind. So I hope I've answered your questions. I think your two questions were actually easy to answer for me right now. They really are. But you gauged them in such a way that you make it easy to say, yes, I can do those things. Okay.
Candace.
Well, welcome to council, Mrs. Glory Jordan. I know that, people are complex. And after a career of 42 years as an attorney, I'm sure that there have been many times where you have been seated across the table from someone, and there were very, very contentious issues that were at hand. Here at council, as a former speaker of the council, you mediated those issues as well. And as you mentioned, you have adapted into new roles as you have moved forward. My understanding is that attorneys are bound by a very strict code of conduct and ethics. And is an attorney suspected of wrongdoing or a violation of those ethics and conduct, that they can be reported to a number of different places, including the American Bar Association, the Oklahoma Bar Association, the Cherokee Bar Association. And so when those reports of conduct are made and those investigations happen, my assumption is that good attorneys welcome that spotlight and kind of welcome that transparency. So I say all that basically to ask about how you intend to address potential conflicts of interest, which is a bit of a extension of Councilor Coates' question.
Again, there's the recusal process. The Constitution tells us that Supreme Court justices have to have two things wrote, and one thing is added, I think, by an act that we passed several years ago. You have to be a Cherokee citizen, of course. You have to be able to practice in the highest court of one of our states, which means you need to be a member, if you practice in Oklahoma, of the Oklahoma Bar Association. The third thing that you have to be, and this was added by an act, is you have to be a member of the Cherokee Nation Bar. All of those things require, well, the second and third thing require us to be very ethical. And in the 42 years that I have practiced, I have had a bar license with the state of Oklahoma in good standing.
Great.
So that should tell you something, that I have 17 file cabinets at home full of files, and I have never had one client make a bar complaint against me.
Wonderful. The Cherokee word for lawyer, and Melvina might correct me on this, is ditiohihi, and it means to argue. I mean, the root of that word is to argue with one another. And it's really, really difficult to engage in the practice of law for over 40 years and not have a little bit of, antagonism and a little bit of back and forth when you're seated around that table. But my understanding as well is oftentimes for attorneys, when they leave the table, they get up, shake hands, and walk out as colleagues. So as we move forward, I do want to make one other point of correction. I'm an educator, but I'm also a student of history and politics. And William Howard Taft, former President of the United States, served as the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court of the United States. So when we're talking about elected officials serving in the judiciary, we cannot forget William Howard Taft, a seminal example of someone holding the highest office of executive leadership. And now, Chief Hoskin, I'm not saying that at some point in time you need to be nominated to the Supreme Court, but I'm saying there is precedent within the history of the United States, our highest court in the land. And so before we move forward, I wanted to make sure that that correction was there on the record, and we all understand that all of us who walk through the world every day are political figures. We make political decisions, we make political actions, sometimes even with the language that we use. As someone who has a degree in linguistic anthropology, I am very well aware of that, and I am one of the individuals who is a sponsor for this piece of legislation, and I will continue to offer my support, and I will, that's the reason for my yes vote. I believe fully that Mrs. Gloria Jordan is able to bring an open mind. I think people also need to recognize that once if her nomination goes forward and is successful, she will not be able to participate in politics in the way that you have up to perhaps, now. There won't be any fundraising or anything like that that's going on. She will have to live life as an apolitical figure as we move forward. And so I have full faith and confidence that she's able to do that. And that's the reason for my decision today. Thank you for the time, Chair.
Anybody else?
Councilor T, I'd also just like to add, as far as precedent, that actually Levi Woodbury was a historical figure that served on our nation's Supreme Court. And prior to that, he served in the United States Senate and was also governor of the state of New Hampshire.
Anybody else? I believe there was a gentleman by the name of Troy Wayne Poteet that also served on the council and was on the Supreme Court justice. I'll say this, I'll be real quick because we've talked quite a bit. And anytime I see new councilmen come in, or I see them on the internet and then they're saying what they're going to do and what they can't do, a lot of times when I get this, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this. And I kind of laugh because just like this position, you are one vote. I mean, my vote here doesn't mean any more than anybody's vote on this tribal council. I am one vote. We all are one vote. And you are going to be one vote. That doesn't mean everybody believes how you're going to believe. Or, it's great when you can show unity, and you can. But it just doesn't happen. It doesn't happen here all the time. So, because of that, and you start talking about politics and the national government and things, and oh my gosh, I don't want to be compared to our national government. The Cherokee Nation, I would hope to God we are not compared to them. I mean, the way they do things and what they allow. And I think that as far as our court system goes, we're a little behind. They had 100 years a head start on us, and we are trying to catch up and do things right. But it's difficult. We do need experience in these positions. We need good, young, experienced people to come in. But then again, we need people to come in who have experience. For many, many years to come in. We need all kinds of experience. Because, everybody brings something to the table. And I am a sponsor of you too. And, I don't know if I buy into some of these arguments because, what, if you're on different political poles and you don't agree with each other, you're not. I don't care if you're playing pickleball. You're not going to agree. I mean, if you just have different polarizing views, that's just the way the world is. Not everybody's the same, and it's the same on this council. So, I think that you will bring something to the table that is beneficial to our council, your experience. And you mesh that with the younger people on there, and I think that's what makes things successful. It's just everybody's different, but they bring something to the table. So I'm going to support you today. Anybody else? All right, let's vote. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Aye. Vote carries.
Thank you.
Congratulations. Yes, ma'am. Number 12, let's see. Councilman Sam, would you take that, please?
This is a resolution amending resolution number R-13-23, approving a letter of credit agreement and granting a limited consent to be sued. I put this in form of a motion.
We have a motion and a second. Are there any questions to this? All in favor? All opposed? All right. Well, that brings us to the conclusion. Congratulations again to all chairs, co-chairs. Do we have any announcements? All right. We'll do that later. All right. I just want to say this before we leave, and we never do this, but we need to do it today. We need to have another prayer. We need to have that today. We need absolute. We need some help. So I don't know who to ask to do this. I don't. Melvin, you know, if you want to give us another prayer again, if there's anybody who wants to.
Takes more than one sometimes to say a prayer, so in your way, say a prayer.
All right.
Our Heavenly Father, we come to you today with a heavy heart. Lord, one of our members needs your healing. Lord, you know the situation, and there's nothing that's beyond your hands. Lord, we just ask that you would send your healing powers at this hour of need. Lord, we just trust you, and I know these others are believing. In your name, we pray. Amen.
Amen. Okay, I need one more motion. Second? We have a motion and a second to adjourn. All in favor? All opposed? We are adjourned.